Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I want to talk about Dungeons and Discourse, a very interesting channel where the YouTube commentator recently said exactly what I said from a different angle. And what I say is so rare and so unusual and so unprecedented and so unmatched by any other channels that I really wanted to point this out, because I really feel this person is just saying exactly what I've been saying in a different way, right? In a very different way, coming from a different angle, but arriving at the same place as me. And that is that the D&D Beyond, Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, Thieves Gallery, content element is incredibly historic, right? And is really changing everything, right? And that's exactly what Dungeons and Discourses says, okay? Now, I'm so sorry. I believe that I'm going to talk about this person's video. I don't know their gender. I'm so sorry, and I really tried to figure it out, but I don't think, and I think it's one of the first times in my life where I was like, oh, announced pronouns would have helped, right? So I think this person is a woman, and I'm going to refer to her as she. If I'm incorrect, my apologies. I think Dungeon Discourse, and the only reason I'm taking the time to say this is I just finished I think it was called Philosophy Tube, and I listened to 10 videos, and then the person said, I'm this gender, and I was like, oh, and so it was just a surprise. And then they talked about people being surprised about their gender, so it wasn't just me. And so, so I believe this person is a woman, and I'm going to refer to her as she in this video. If it's not a she, or if I'm incorrect, please correct me, and I'll correct it going forward. Thank you for your patience on that. And okay. Let's keep going. All right, so Dungeons and Discourse has a great channel. Let's talk about her channel, okay? So Dungeon Discourse is a Warhammer gamer coming over to do a lot of D&D coverage. That's interesting. Why would a Warhammer player come over to D&D? Well, there's good reasons, right? For one thing, that I think I've been saying this for a while. Dungeons and Dragons ain't a game, right? And I really feel, right? January 2023 was incredibly uncomfortable. The 2023 OGL crisis, the 2023 Manic Panic, the whole world turning over, OGL dying, functionally dying, and the D&D SRD going over to Creative Commons. It's a massive change. It's a huge event, right? And we're still unpacking it, right? And so what I want to talk to you about is a video over on Dungeons and Discourse. She just did it. And it's a really fascinating video, because what it talks about is on the thumbnail, right? It says Hasbro is, and so basically it has a picture of Batman, Zank Yendar, who is a Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves, Renee Jean Page. Zank Yendar is a 10th level hero paladin, okay, who is on Edgin Darvis's team, okay, but this is Renee Jean Page. He became very famous for Bridgerton, okay, which was one of the most successful shows that has ever aired on Netflix, right? And one of the things I just want you to understand, right? Like I keep saying, hey, the OSR can go kick rocks, right? And the reason why is I really feel like the Kumbaya Garden is done. We're in a contested ground now. Tabletop role-playing games have completely changed. Right now, right? Shadow Dark RPG. There is a distinct possibility that Shadow Dark RPG could carve massive, right? Massive segments of players and dungeon masters away from actual Dungeons and Dragons, even as 50th year celebration comes up. And the reason why is the OSR is genuinely coalescing around Kelsey Dion in a way that I have never seen the OSR coalesce around anything. And I think they realize this game is coming out and will be dropping almost pretty much at the exact same time as Dungeons & Dragons 6e, right? And that's huge. And it's their only chance of competing with Dungeons & Dragons and gaining any real ground, right? Because it has a pancake stack of loser games, OSE, DCC, Pathfinder. Dungeons & Dragons has handed these games their butts for a decade, right, or more, right? And and said, none of y'all are served. And the OSR is like, we talked a big game. Are we going to actually put up any actual? Are we going to do anything? Are we all talk, or are we is there any action? Is there any success? Are we anything but garage band and its energy junk games again and again, and just another splat book, another garage band energy, nothing, right? Like, and that's what the OSC, that's what the DCC, that's what Pathfinder have all proven to be, right? Like, have all just proven to be losers kicked off the top of the hill by D&D again, right? And here comes Shadow Dark RPG, and there's a real competitor coming up. And we're going into this contested ground where every Dungeon Master matters, every D&D player matters, and this whole nonsense of play whatever you want is utterly nonsense, right? We know this now because we know people are playing for keeps. That's what January 2023 OGL Crisis was like. Hey, we would rather see Dungeons and Dragons gone than lose our ability to then have to make our own content in our own games. Because the reality is, I think that's what's been happening over the last 5 years is people are just like, it's 5 year, nothing. Nobody wants to play anything else, right? That's the reality. Everything else is just piddly nonsense that doesn't really matter, where this stuff really does matter, right? So Dungeons and Discourse gets into it, right? And what she says is, hey, this is a dystopian future, right? And she says, what's happening? And she says flat out at the beginning of the video, you guys didn't notice it. It was very subtle. Most of the people missed it. Everybody was shouting about the OGL. You guys don't realize everything just changed last week. And you know what changed it? The stat blocks from the D&D Beyond, Dungeons & Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, Thieves Gallery content element changed the world of tabletop role-playing games. She's saying exactly what I said, right? I said flat out, these are incredibly historic. This is incredibly important. Something is fundamentally changing. Something is happening. This is different, right? And that's what she's saying. She's saying, you guys need to look up, right? And right on the thumbnail, she's saying what I'm saying, right? She's showing Zank Yendar on the thumbnail with a Space Marine and with Batman, right? Because she's saying they are making the products the world. And she's 100% right. They are making the product the world. The movie is Forgotten Realms. And Forgotten Realms will be forever shaped by this multi-billion-dollar possibility film, right? And they are going for the whole ball of wax. And she is coming from an indie perspective, right? She supports like this little Batman war game, right? Like like super small. And so she's used to seeing these tiny little war game miniature companies compete against Games Workshop, right? And now she's turning away from war games because she's like, everybody's realizing CCG don't matter, board games don't matter, war games don't matter. The most important thing in all of tabletop games are role-playing games. Why? Because they have the world's most charismatic, confident, intelligent people. It has captured Hollywood's heart, right? In that there's you could not spin around and throw a foam rock in Hollywood and not hit a screenwriter that's played Dungeons & Dragons for 10, 20 years, right? And that's the issue. Like, and it has massive cultural. Dungeons & Dragons doesn't sell. It sells like crap. Everybody's like, oh, it sold $1 billion. It didn't even get it. Dungeons & Dragons doesn't even sell $250 million, right? There are yachts that cost $250 million. Dungeons & Dragons money is junk. It is no money, trash money. Okay, y'all. I cannot believe anybody complains that Dungeons & Dragons doesn't make money. It doesn't even make $250 million a year, right? And the reality is, there's video games that are utter trash that make 10 times in a year what Dungeons & Dragons makes, right? But its cultural impact is massive, absolutely massive. And here we see it, right? And so basically, Dungeons & Discourse is saying, I see this. This changes everything. And she's saying, hey, Dave, I think it's Dave Cook, Chris Cook, right? Chris Cook is tying these worlds into Dungeons & Dragons, and Dungeons & Dragons is Hollywood. It is $1 billion Bravo. It is changing, and there is absolutely no way these indies and OSRs are going to be able to compete against a juggernaut of promotion and merchandise and meaning and purpose and American capitalism running with every piston firing, right? And so she sees it, and it terrifies her. She says what's happening is a dystopian future arrived today, right? Now, what's interesting is this is where it gets interesting. This is why she's switching from Warhammer to D&D, right, to coverage, because nothing matters on Warhammer stuff, right? They were finished when Gary Gygax said they were finished in 1974, and just turned their table over, and war games have been meaningless ever since, right? I got a nice collection of Warhammer. I like to play it every now and then, but I can tell you right now, it's a child's tea party compared to actual what you can achieve with Dungeons & Dragons. It's meaningless, right? And she looks at this, and this is the part, right? When we come to something in the world and we're like, this needs to be castigated or celebrated. I celebrate it. She castigates it, right? And we both understand something is fundamentally changing, right? Tabletop role-playing games, all you Kumbaya Garden, everybody plays what they want, you can all go kick rocks. You know nothing. You don't see what's happening, right? And the reason why I keep saying this is, check my channel. You will see me saying something different than what the rest of the group is saying, right? 3 years ahead, right? And what I'm saying now will be bog standard truth, in my humble opinion, 3 years from now, and everyone will be saying it. But me and Dungeons & Discourse are saying it today. We're standing on different sides of the table, but we realize what's happening. We both realize that, and listen to the words, D&D Beyond, it matters. Dungeons & Dragons, it matters. Honor Among Thieves, it matters, right? Thieves Gallery, unprecedented canon D&D content, right? Nothing like it has ever been printed, right? Printed in air quotes because it's digital, right? And then content element, right? What is it? Is it a page? Is it an article? You don't even know, right? But I celebrate it, right? Dungeons & Discourse castigates it, right? And fears it. It's all the hope in the world for me. It's her terror, right? But we both know it's powerful, and it means a permanent change to tabletop role-playing games forever, right? Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's really important is when I get to hear your humble opinion when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.